I drank beer with my friends. Sometimes I had too many beers. I liked beer. I still like beer. Had beers, have some beers. One beer, drink beer, drinks beer, drank beer, and drinking beer.
Upstairs, downstairs, where was it? I don't know, but I had one beer.
Friday!
You probably had beer center each week. Ralph Club, biggest contributor.
Beer. I like beer. I don't know if you like beer, Senator, or not. What do you like to drink?
I had one beer. Friday. Yeehaw!
Hanging out and having some beers with friends, which I gladly do, and which I fully embrace.
Well, you think it was... Nope, it was one beer. Friday.
Let's hear the chorus. When you say put, you said
It is Friday. One Beer Friday. And it's a final football weekend.
Oh!
One Beer Friday. Well, it is.
I know.
But
I had forgotten.
It's the Super Bowl. It's the Chiefs and the Bucks.
Mm-hmm.
You can hear it right here on 1620 The Zone. This is Super Week, by the way. Brought to you by Varsity Sports Cafe and Roman Coin Pizza. We are live in the stream at Stibbs TV. And Josh, we have a special guest who has brought us a rather special beer because it's not something you get every day.
No, yeah, I got an email a couple of weeks ago from listener Alex, and he said, hey, I have this beer. I have two of them that I would love to give you guys one. I'll have the other. They're 2 years old. This is a beer. I looked it up that you're supposed, and he knows it too. You're supposed to drink it like right when it's available. Pliny the Elder. It is available from what, Russian River Brewing? Is that what it is?
Yep.
In California. And so we were supposed to pop it open a while ago, but I'm excited to try this thing, and we welcome Alex to the show right now. Alex, what's going on?
Not a lot. Thanks for having me here.
Thanks for the beer.
Yeah. So how did you learn about this? What is special about it?
So the beer itself is, I've heard about it for, since I've probably been into craft beer, maybe since the 2008, 2009, when I was maybe 22, 23 years old. And it's always been one of those sought after beers. And a couple of times I've been to Colorado because they are distributed out that far. That's as far west as they'll distribute the beer. And I've been lucky enough to come across it a few times on tap in Denver, and then a couple times just in random liquor stores. You can actually find on their website, they have a where to find our beers, and it lists all the distribution points, all the liquor stores in Colorado by town. And so I took that list and went, all right, cool, let's see if I can find it. And ever since then, every time I go to Colorado, I look for it.
Yeah,
what type of beer is it? I mean, it's an IPA.
It's a double IPA.
A double IPA.
Yep.
Yeah, it doesn't really say on the bottle.
No, yeah, very, very minimalistic look of the bottle, and you can see it right now on Stibbs TV. And I've had a chance last year. I got lucky because, as he mentioned, this is one of those kind of, if you're a beer nerd, this is one of those ones that is always mentioned in the articles. Well, they do another one called Pliny the Younger. And if I remember right now, because you might know a little more than I do, that one's even more rare, more sought after. And I was able to get a hold of a bottle of that last year. Absolutely ridiculous.
I've never had that one before, honestly.
Yeah, a friend of mine, he knew the right person, and so I was able to get a bottle. It was a little pricey, but it was really tasty.
That's cool.
Well, I haven't had it.
It smells good.
It's delicious.
Yeah. Is it?
It makes me wonder if they say that you should have it right away. If it's still this good after 2 years, how good is it right out of the bottle?
Oh yeah, that is tasty.
You said this is 2 years?
2 year old. There's no sediment. I poured it. I was wondering if it was going to look nasty. It looks fine to me.
Yeah, still got good carbonation.
Oh man, yeah, it does. Yeah, it's nice
really
and
good.
bubbly.
It's very good.
So I bought it when I was at I went to the Colorado game out there in 2019 with some friends. The first time I'd ever been to a road game. And so we went and obviously had a great weekend, and except for the game result, of course, but a couple of the friends drove out there. Some of us flew. And so when we found it, it was like, well, drive some back for us. And it's been sitting in the back of my fridge almost ever since. And I kind of kicking myself for not drinking it right away, but kind of glad that I held on to it, I guess now.
Yeah, it is. It is.
We're glad too.
Fantastic.
Yeah.
Alex, this is great. We really appreciate you sharing it with us because I've heard of this, but I didn't, I didn't think much of it because, like you said, they don't ship very far west, and it's out of California, Russian River Brewing Company. And it is. I mean, for 2 years old.
2 years old, like Stibbs.
Yeah.
It's like imagine what this thing tastes like when it's fresh.
Yeah, or right off
my
the top.
gosh.
And they say, I mean, it says on the bottle, it says, keep cold, drink fresh, do not age. But I'll say
Our
this.
bad.
I'll say this for aging, it's not. It's,
I mean, you kept it in the fridge, like it.
Yeah.
That does a little. That helps a
it works
little.
fine, and there's plenty of carbonation, like you said. It didn't.
Yeah.
If it's lost, I can't imagine what it's lost. But if it lost something,
Yeah.
I'm
the only thing I can think
it's
of
even better.
is maybe and it doesn't have any skunky taste to it, like you said. But Josh, you were explaining the Pliny the Younger you had without how that was all the taste of an IPA with no bite.
Yes.
There's like the tiniest bite with this one.
Yeah, but not too much.
So maybe that's the only thing that might be different is maybe there's less of that, but I can't imagine it being much better.
Yeah, Dan says Pliny is a beer holy grail. Yeah, this is one of those ones that's just like, you hope to try one day just because it's on a lot of those, those lists.
Well, this is tremendous, and we really appreciate you sharing some of your supply with us. And
absolutely
thinking of us 2 years later, you didn't think of us enough to come visit us when we were at the
when we were actually in Colorado.
We were at Colorado, but that's neither here nor there.
Beggars can't be choosers.
John, are you much of an IPA guy? I can't really get it.
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah. I drink a lot of IPAs, so absolutely. This is really good.
Yeah.
It really
I
is.
know Josh is, obviously, and I think Stibbs maybe is too, but I wasn't
Definitely. It's probably my favorite of the
Nope.
craft realm for sure.
No, this is really good. I love the West Coast IPAs, the Lagunitas, the Deschutes,
Mm-hmm.
and then I've had some others being in
Goose Island has one called West Coast IPA.
Right.
That's pretty good. It's better than their regular IPA. I'm not a big fan
the
of
craft
that one.
stuff in Oregon is really
Yeah.
good.
Mhm.
Craft beers in Oregon are very good. So yes, I'm a big fan of the West Coast.
Yeah.
West Coast. Yeah.
Which is kind of falling out of favor a little bit. It's more hazies are the new king right now, right?
New England style kind of.
Yeah.
It's not a hazy style, but I mean, still delicious in its own right.
That same kind of taste. Yeah, the kind of fruity. It's
Yeah,
good.
That's
It's
good
really
stuff.
Yes. Can't thank you enough. Thank you again.
Thank you,
Yeah,
Alex.
thanks,
Absolutely.
Alex.
I'm really thrilled to have to be able to share it with you guys.
Yeah.
Kind of be on the air a little bit. That's kind of fun.
Cheers to everyone. And
Uh-huh.
do you have
Cheers to the end of the week, boys.
at the end of
Yeah.
the week? Do you have a pick for the Super Bowl?
Careful.
So about the Super Bowl, so my wife and I are very much Tom Brady haters. We'll go with that. But I've also got friends, and my sister and brother-in-law are Chiefs fans. My brother-in-law is from Kansas City, so I'm kind of leaning Kansas City. I know, sorry, Stibbs, that breaks your heart.
I'm sorry
But
you
at
have
the
so many
same time,
people in your life.
also seeing Levante David, Sue, and I believe Khalil Davis get Super Bowl rings would be excellent too, as a Husker fan. So
Yeah.
I mean, there's silver lining with the Bucks getting the win, but I'm going to lean Chiefs, I think.
That's a shame.
Well, Stibbs, you're not watching anyway. So what?
I know.
I mean, I still want them to lose.
If
The only
a-
reason I'm
if-
not watching is because I don't want to be miserable.
If a
for
Super
5
Bowl
hours.
falls in the forest and Stibbs isn't there to hear it, does it actually happen?
No,
Well, I mean, Stibbs, you're a Broncos fan, right?
I am.
So misery loves company, boys. So
Can I have your quarterback, please?
Oh.
Please give me your
yeah,
quarterback.
oh,
Please,
God,
please.
please, just depression.
He held up a Texans
Yeah, he does.
bottle opener for those who are not on the YouTube stream.
Well, Alex, again, thank you very much for sharing the Pliny the Elder. We really appreciate
Absolutely.
you thinking of us, and
Yeah.
and cheers to a great weekend.
Thanks, Alex.
Yeah, you guys as well.
Thanks, man.
Cheers,
You
boys.
bet. Cheers.
There we go. It's our friend of the program, Alex. We love our friends of the program. They always share their beer with us.
Yeah, Wannabe Walk-On says, wow, whoever gave you that bottle really likes you boys. Pliny is something special.
It is.
And Mimi Scott, who is definitely what I would refer to, lovingly, I might add, as a beer nerd, he says that this aging, as long as it did, loses the hop flavor. UV light breaks it down over time, which is one of the reasons why Heineken and Stella and all those stupid green bottled beers taste like rotten
Corona,
A-hole.
who doesn't even have green. It's just clear.
If he stored in the dark, though, should have preserved all right. Might mellow the bite. Yeah,
Well, it's in the refrigerator.
Center's in the
so-
back of the fridge. The only
Yeah.
light it would have seen was a light bulb.
Well, yeah,
Yep.
literally the opening of the fridge
Yeah.
and closing of the fridge.
and
Yeah.
that's
So, yeah,
it.
it's-
So it wouldn't have done a whole lot
Yeah.
there.
Thanks again, Alex.
Yes, indeed. Thank you, Alex, very much.
It's so funny. I had backup beers. We had our boss brought us a bunch of stuff because he was recently
Just
out
in
of town.
case it wasn't any good. But
Yeah,
no, this is
I
perfect.
don't
This
need to
is-
grab another one.
There really is
I
nothing
mean, I might
wrong with it.
anyway. But
Yeah, I'll take one home.
There's really nothing at all. So as we get ready for the Super Bowl, I don't know if this bodes well or not, but according to ESPN, and by the way, if you want like a detailed breakdown, it's an easy read.
Bill Barnwell's.
It's a good read, but it's detailed. Bill Barnwell does a great breakdown on ESPN.com of the things you need to know for the Super Bowl. One of the things that he listed was this game grades as the second best Super Bowl matchup in the last 12 years based on analytics, based on, performance grades and all this other stuff. Second best matchup since 2009. The game that it is behind is unfortunately the least competitive Super Bowl of the last 12 years. The Seahawks Broncos had a pregame matchup of 99.6. This one is on a 98.7 on a scale of a 1 to 100. So it is a high ranked matchup between these two teams. This is the first Super Bowl to feature the top two passing offenses in the NFL. The Chiefs were 1, the Bucs were 2. First ever time the Super Bowl has featured the top two passing teams in the NFL, which is kind of surprising. You would have thought that this would have happened by now, but this is the first time ever. So I thought those were kind of interesting as we get ready to break this one down. To me, I think it comes down to it always comes down to the basics, fewest number of mistakes, blah, blah, blah. But I think this game could easily come down to who handles the pressure the best and who creates the pressure the best.
And you're talking about literal pressure of like pass rush.
Yes. Can the Chiefs pressure Brady?
Yep.
And how does Mahomes do under pressure from Tampa? Because you've got to assume that Tampa's going to be able to get home because Kansas City is going to be down Eric Fisher. They're going to have to move some guys around. But the interesting thing is how good Mahomes is under pressure. Best quarterback in the league under pressure. We heard that from Mitch Holthus earlier this week. Tom Brady's numbers under pressure this year are not good.
Dude, I was going to say.
They are not good.
Yeah, when he was not pressured this year, Tom Brady posted the league's 5th best quarterback QBR, quarterback rating, the one that ESPN does. When he was pressured, and that was 84.3 out of 100. So that's a really solid grade. When he was pressured, though, it fell all the way to 6.4, which is 30th in the league among 33 passers that were able to qualify based on number of passes thrown. No quarterback, as Barnwell wrote, had a larger drop-off by QBR when he was pressured.
Yep.
So that's why I agree with you. Another thing that he added was 5 of the 6 most pressured games, including the top 4, were losses. Of course, the first time that they played the Chiefs, that is in that group as well. That to me, I don't want to say that is the defining stat that like on Monday morning when we wake up and we kind of read and like, okay, what went wrong and what went right? I don't know if this will be the defining stat, but it does seem like one that I want to put in like my top 3 of if they can get to him, it is going to change the game in a positive for Kansas City and in a negative for Tampa Bay. If they are unable to do so, Tom Brady is able to make the kind of throws that he did versus the Packers and that he has made at times, especially over the last month of the regular season when he really was able to take advantage of some defenses, that aren't, super, super great. And I think a lot of the Lions game that they had late in the year.
The thing that Kansas City has is they've got someone who had the kryptonite 14 years ago when Steve Spagnuolo engineered the defense that stopped the perfect season.
Mm-hmm.
Now, if you'll remember that game, the Giants were able to pressure with their front 4, and they got right in Brady's face, and it made him uncomfortable. And that is the key, pressuring up the middle against Tom Brady. If the Chiefs are able to do that, as you quoted all of those different numbers, I think when you look at the other side, and again, this was something Bill Barnwell pointed out, is simulated pressure, sim pressure.
Yeah.
Or as we may have called it back in the day, zone blitzing, where you show that it looks like you've got 6 guys, 7 guys coming at the quarterback, but then all of a sudden a couple of defensive linemen peel off, and you're trying to bring a numbers advantage from one side to the next. Now, Tampa and Todd Bowles have not done that much this year, but you wonder with 2 weeks to prepare if that might be something that works, because as Barnwell points out, that's what Atlanta did. And if you remember Atlanta at the end of the season, they scared Kansas City, almost upset them in, I want to say, week 14, week 15.
Yeah, late in the year.
And they did that with simulated pressure, where it looked like they were, sending the house, and then all of a sudden they only sent 4, but you didn't know which 4 were coming. And they would create mismatches. Sometimes it'd be, an overload on one side, or you overwhelm a tackle here, or you overwhelm a center there, and you get guys confused. Again, it's not something Tampa has done much, but it was something that worked against the Chiefs not too very long ago against a healthy Patrick Mahomes. So maybe that's something that Tampa Bay will do. Or perhaps they feel like they can just rush with their front 4 and be okay, be able to drop guys back into coverage, because they're going to need help in the secondary. They had a devil of a time covering Tyreek Hill in the first game. I mean, he burned him in every single solitary way possible. They're going to need help on the backside. They're not going to be able to cover these guys one-on-one, and there's too many weapons out there to begin with. So, if Tampa's blitzing, if they're just outright blitzing, they got to get home really fast. If they're not, they've got to be able to confuse Kansas City enough to know where the pressure's coming from and try to overwhelm some of those guys who may be playing out of position on the Kansas City front.
I'm happy that you said that, because I wanted to talk next about Travis Kelce and Tyreek Hill. Because of Hill having 269 yards on 13 catches in that first meeting in the regular season, they combined for 351. I cannot imagine, and I'm guessing you're in the same boat, I cannot imagine Hill putting up numbers that approach that. But am I an idiot for expecting Travis Kelce to markedly improve on his numbers? I don't think I am. I think that both of these guys can go for 100+. And I think that is going to be the problem that is presented to the Tampa Bay defense of, what do you decide to do in terms of the pass rush, a simulated pass rush, because of what you just said, that there are all these weapons. And so I look at those two guys. I think that Kelce is going to have the bigger game. Like, I think that he is if you like the Chiefs, I think he is a really sneaky pick to consider for MVP. It probably would be Mahomes, because it usually is just like, if Tampa wins, it's probably going to be Tom Brady, because it usually is a quarterback. But if you're kind of looking for a different person, Travis Kelce is the one that I would go to. I just wonder, how do they defend, Tyreek Hill? What do they do in terms of trying to knock him off of his routes? Because there was this one replay in particular from the Bills game that I saw from a different angle. The long touchdown that he caught it over the middle, and he just kind of ran. And just the way he's able to get off the ball and make that cornerback miss immediately. It's so tough. And you darn near have to be right in his face if you're going to stop him from doing so. So what happens there? 269 yards. Can both of those guys combine for that number again? They can, yes. I don't think they will, but trying to slow one of those two down, I think is going to be, one of the biggest keys for the Bucs defense.
Another great stat is what Patrick Mahomes has done in the postseason in the red zone. The Chiefs have converted 81% of their drives into the red zone into touchdowns, not points, touchdowns. And the team that actually had the most success was Cleveland earlier this year. They held Kansas City to 2 touchdowns in 5 red zone trips, but 2 of those came in a kind of a wonky situation. One was at the end of a half, and they ended up kicking a field goal, and there was something else.
Well, he missed one of the drives against the Browns. So
right, and he missed one of the drives against Cleveland. So really, it's higher than 81% for Patrick Mahomes in pressure situations. And if you'll recall from the NFC Championship game, it was Tampa's red zone defense that won the game because they held the Packers to field goals. Arguably, the last one was a terrible mistake to actually kick the field goal by Matt LaFleur, but they held Green Bay to field goals. So I know the first game was a slew of big plays. If we get more traditional drives and the Chiefs get in the red zone, we could have a good strength-on-strength matchup. Tampa Bay's defense versus Kansas City's offense. So far, though, Kansas City against a variety of different opponents has had a lot of success getting touchdowns when they get inside the 20.
Yeah, I was stunned that the red zone struggles have just in hindsight have kind of been a consistent for the Chiefs in the regular season and under Mahomes, and yet when they get in the playoffs that they are that good 4 out of 5 times. They were 0 for 3 in scoring touchdowns in the red zone in the first meeting this year. I think I mentioned that with Eric at home yesterday. That's the only reason that game didn't turn into a blowout, because they had such a great first quarter, but they were unable to really put their foot on the Tampa Bay throat in the second half and pull away and win that game comfortably. So I agree with you. And along those lines, I love the phrase, no risk it, no biscuit. That, I think, is going to be one of those really, really important things for this one. And I'm talking mainly about Tampa Bay. And it's not even about, fourth down aggressiveness or like what they did at the end of the half versus the Packers in choosing to take the punt team off the field and bring on the offense. I'm talking about settling for field goals inside the 5-yard line if they get down there. I'm talking about going for it on fourth down if they get perhaps past the 50, definitely past the 40. In a game like this, where I think you have to go in expecting the Chiefs offense to be really, really good, I don't think that Tampa Bay can settle. And honestly, I think Bruce Arians knows this, and I don't think that they will settle. So what they decide to do when they are in red zone situations or how they can be aggressive, not to mention, do we see a fake on field goals? Do we see a fake on punt? Do we see an onside kick? Do we see them trying to gain extra possessions if they're unable to get takeaways, versus that Chiefs offense?
We mentioned earlier, that this is the first Super Bowl matchup featuring the two best passing teams. On the running side of things, the Bucs average less than 95 yards on the ground per game. There's only been one Super Bowl team to average fewer than 95 rushing yards during the regular season and win. That was the 2011 Giants. So 1 out of 54 have run for this few yards. And, of course, before it was, and that was the strategy against New Orleans, was control the ball with the clock and play for turnovers. And
they did.
And they did, and it was successful. This game's going to be different. The other thing I think Tampa has to avoid is, Brady won on NFC Championship game weekend, but he threw 3 picks.
Yeah.
That game should have, could have, would have been over long before it was, but Brady got turnover happy. That's not going to be, that can't happen against Kansas City.
No.
That can't happen against Kansas City.
They do that, they're going to get blown out in this one.
Yes.
They really, really are.
And, I really liked how Kansas City looked defensively. I know that, they're different teams or different quarterbacks, but I think Kansas City's played really well defensively in these playoffs. And, who's a bigger threat? Is it Baker Mayfield's ability? Is it Tom Brady's current ability? Is it Josh Allen's ability? Is it Tom Brady's current ability? I know he's the GOAT. I know he's the winningest Super Bowl quarterback in history, but he ain't Tom Brady from 5 years ago.
No.
He ain't Tom Brady from 10 years ago. Will he get the time to throw it deep? Because that's been their thing. Get downfield. Will he have the time to do that? I don't know if he will. And thus the running game comes into play here, because one of the strategies that teams have tried to use is control the clock, keep away from Kansas City. Is Tampa able to do that if that's something they need to do? Or do they try to match Kansas City point for point? I don't know if Tampa can win a game where they're trying to match Patrick Mahomes point for point.
Yeah, and I think that makes it so interesting, because if you try to play keep away, If that fails, if you go 3 and out, let's say you have a first and 10 run. They open the game with a run. It goes for 0 yards. Suddenly you're in 2nd and 10. You try a pass, it's incomplete. Suddenly it's 3rd and 10. That's why I wonder if they have to be aggressive on first downs, and they have to at least try to do something through the air, because you don't want to run the ball and suddenly be behind the 8 ball, because it ruins one plan and then it also ruins another at the same time. The middle 8 has been thrown out a lot. It certainly was in the NFC Championship game, the last 4 minutes of the first half, the first 4 minutes of the second half, especially depending on who wins the toss. You assume that they defer. Them gaining 2 possessions at the end of the game, we thought, or at the end of the half and into the second half, we thought that the Packers were going to be able to take advantage of that. Instead, Tampa took advantage of that with their decision to go for it on 4th down. They score a touchdown. They get a turnover within the first minute of the second half. They suddenly score 14 points within the span of a couple of minutes of game time. And that ended up being the difference. Without that, they lose the game. I just, once again, I'd be stunned if Kansas City were to make those types of mental and physical mistakes to allow for Tampa to pick up 10 to 14 cheap points.
There was talk earlier in the week that it could be a rainy Super Bowl, but the forecast in Tampa has improved for game time. Yes, it is expected to rain early in the day, but it is expected to taper off by late afternoon. So unless the forecast changes, and it always can, I don't think weather is going to be a factor, which I think, in my opinion, benefits Tampa more than Kansas City, because I think Kansas City could play through it a little bit better than the Buccaneers can. Balls being slippery and, hard to grip. I know that Tom Brady is used to playing in cold weather, but I think wet weather actually helps Kansas City, because the defensive backs now have to be even more careful, because they don't know which way to break. The receiver knows which way they're breaking, and the last thing you can afford is to give Kansas City anything. Can't give them a half a step, because they're already a step.
That's an interesting point. Yeah, I didn't think about it from that perspective. You're right.
That's part of our breakdown of Super Bowl 55. Coming up next, predictions. We got a lot of props and the pick of the game itself. And what will Stibbs be doing for the Super Bowl? His final decision is coming up on 1620 The Zone.